Welcome back for episode 41 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 27th, 2016 on twitch.tv. Big shout out to the chat here. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who it has been said has the voice of a flower, Just Insane 0516.
Good evening.
Next up is the third member of our merry little band, our friendly neighborhood spokesman for Paean, Steamin' Willy Beeman.
Paean be with you anyway.
We are also joined again tonight by one of the masterminds behind the amazing work over on Ishtar Collective that, we use for nearly everything, Forrest. Forrest, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So we're also, just FYI, we have changed from the oppressive Skype over to the much more friendly, apparently, Discord. Just so if you have any issues on this episode, just a heads up, that might be we're still getting used to this new program for voice chatting. So, Forrest, real quick. Just to recap on last time you were on, where can people find you, particularly on the internet? I know we interact with you on Twitter a lot.
Right. I'm on Twitter at Purple Chimera, which is also my gamer tag. And it's up there if you need to spell it.
Awesome. And
That's we'll pretty much where you can find me.
Yeah, we'll definitely put a link for you in the show notes as well, like we normally do. So
awesome.
The topic of today's chat is going to be a look at the Cryptarchy. Before we get into that, however, I did want to run through some quick notes. In our last chat, we took a look at the lore surrounding the first Crota Fire team. If you missed that and have any interest in hearing our thoughts on that, please be sure to check out www.focusedfirechat.com for archives of all previous chats, as well as links to all our various other pages. If you don't mind, please also be sure to give us some feedback on iTunes or through our email, focusfirechat@gmail.com, to let us know how we're doing. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins on Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Wednesday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. We also have officially joined the Guardian Radio Network. If you're not already listening to the podcast over on theguardiansofdestiny.com, fix that immediately. Guardian Radio and Guardian One are amazing groups, and we're truly honored to be joining them. Our next chat's going to be a discussion on the lore surrounding Vex structures and their functions, which should be a rather interesting one. So with all that, let's go ahead and dive into the lore of the Cryptarchy.
Alrighty. Well, of course, we all know how much everybody loves Master Rahul. Such a great guy over all the years that we've been playing. Are we going to go through the notes real quick, Blue?
Yeah, let's start off with what we know. So there is not a lot in the grimoire specific for the Cryptarchy in general. We know there's some about the Cryptarchs that we actually interact with, which are Master Arul and Master Ives. They each have their own card, which we'll definitely touch on. But more importantly, the Cryptarchy is actually focused, around the concept of the engrams. So let's start where the engrams started, which is back in the Golden Age. So let's grab that card real quick.
All right, I have it up. The Golden Age. The Traveler changed everything. It reshaped our solar system as decisively as it shattered our scientific and philosophical frameworks. To our ancestors, it must have been a hammer blow, a glimpse beyond the horizon expected possibility into a realm of transcendent power. The Traveler kindled the Golden Age, but we built it. We remember this with pride. Even after so much else has been lost, we settled our solar system and filled it with our work. Today, cryptarchs and scholars work to distill the legends of the Golden Age into truth. We know that humans lived longer, flew further, and knew more. We know that countless ancient diseases and hatreds were extinguished forever. Human aspiration gives birth to vast engineering projects, sweeping social movements, and even new forms of life. The Golden Age was not without challenges. Sources speak of internal strife, philosophical rifts, particularly around questions of machine intelligence and mind forking, and enduring scientific enigmas. But humanity and its machine children tackled these problems with pride, vigor, and contagious sense of pluralist compassion. Yeah. So only a brief mention of the Cryptarchs there. They tie them in with scholars, kind of. And, they want to kind of bring the best parts of the Golden Age to now.
Right.
They kind of do.
Well, and, I think one of the first things that we talked about in the chat was, what is a Cryptarch? It's kind of it's definitely a play off the word cryptology, obviously, but so what is cryptology? Cryptology is the study of codes and the art of writing and solving them. So basically they're linguists. That's really what they're doing. And we learn, we'll get into this a little bit later with Ives especially, but we learn that there's a very, very specific branch of cryptology that they follow, which is cryptoarchaeology. And so for those, who might not know the full definition of archaeology, it's actually a really interesting tie-in to cryptology, because archaeology is the study of human history or prehistory through the excavation of sites and the analysis of artifacts and other physical remains. So think about that. Think of the Cryptarchs as cryptoarchaeologists. They're literally studying the art of writing and solving these linguistic problems. They're deciphering the information from our history in game through artifacts, which we know as engrams. And engrams are, we'll talk about them just in a second when we get to Master Ives, especially when we get to him. But engrams are very important to the Cryptarchs. Because of what they represent. They represent the culmination of the Golden Age tech and the knowledge that such tech granted to humanity within that Golden Age. And that all stems from the Traveler, who was the catalyst for that Golden Age. So the first Cryptarch that we met was Master Raoul. And, Forrest, you want to grab that card real quick?
The Cryptarch card?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Master Rahul's insatiable curiosity drove him to the tower, where, as resident cryptoarchaeologist, he can work directly with guardians returning from the frontier. He decrypts matter engrams as a free service, and when he builds trust with a particular guardian, he is happy to offer rare engrams for sale, although the scarcity of these artifacts forces him to ask for glimmer in compensation. Rahul's true love is history. He treats each new find as a chance to understand the glory of the Golden Age or the terrible truth of the collapse. Listen carefully to his murmurings. He may be the first to understand.
And so this is, again, remember, they're all archaeologists. That's what Cryptarchs are. They are researchers of the past. And I think it's something to note that the only two Cryptarchs that we've experienced in game are awoken. I know that was a chat topic a little bit. That was, for a while there, we were trying to figure out, is the Cryptarchy completely awoken? Is there any other members of the Cryptarchy that are not awoken? And, just given what we have available to us in game, the answer is kind of, we're pretty sure that it is an awoken thing. It's based in the awoken reef. And we'll get to that, especially when you start looking at some of the dialogue quotes between Raoul and Ives. you can start getting
I
kind
was
of.
about to say, Blue. Let me interject real quick with the fact that they're also both from the reef.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, that would explain why they're both awoken.
Right. And we know from the Hygeia Nobilis that one of the greatest libraries was actually on Hygeia, which was destroyed during the start of the Reef Wars. And so we'll talk about that as well a little bit. Justin, do you want to grab, talking about the Reef, you want to grab Master Ives' card real quick?
Yes. Yeah, and I don't trust him and don't like him. I send all my engrams Rahul's way, even though he's burnt me a few times. Master Ives just a little snarky for me. But this is the Master Ives card is actually a public service announcement for arriving Guardians in the Reef. This is one we got right when House of Wolves dropped. Please note, the Tower Cryptography operates under many false beliefs. By the Queen's mercy, the Reef Cryptography will educate you on the true nature of encryption, if you so desire. In ancient times, Earthlings thought there were 3 states of matter. We now know there to be 4: solid, liquid, gas, and engram. Of these, the engram is the purest state of matter. The role of the Cryptarchy is to encrypt and safeguard civilization's informational infrastructure, not to decrypt anything and everything for any low-down scavenger who happens upon an engram. So they take a much more secretive approach for it. Like, it's just to basically simplify it. Rahul is Freedom of Information Act, and Master Ives, he has a lot more of an NSA approach to Cryptarchy.
There is a definite philosophical difference between the two.
And also, did you pick up that he just called us lowlives?
Yes.
Because
there's a lot of quotes that we learn from a couple quotes from Ives that the Reef Cryptarchy is the true Cryptarchy. It's the original Cryptarchy. He says that his real field of research is, of course, the history of the Cryptarchy itself, but the Reef Cryptarchy is the true Cryptarchy. And then he goes on and says that he can assure you the Reef Cryptarchs are not the degenerate schismatics you're familiar with, which anyone who knows, well, so schism is a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties caused by difference in opinion or belief. One of the biggest examples of this was in reality, and this is a real example, is what's called the Great Schism, which occurred in 1378 to 1417. And that was actually between the Roman Catholic Church. There was a political upheaval at that point in time when there were three popes vying for control of the Roman Catholic Church. And this was basically between Avignon and Rome. And it led to this giant war. And it was a political storm. There's a word that I'm not going to say in front of that storm, but it was a mess. And they actually had to have, I think, 3 conventions to pull them all back. And this was following 300 years earlier in 1054. There was the giant East-West schism between the Catholic Church that led to the separation. So now, in today's world, we have, if you're aware of the Catholic faith, you have a church called the Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church, and then you have the Roman Catholic Church. Those two were formed in 1054 over a philosophical debate over the validity of the rite of communion. It was one argument that was over a nuanced word within the rite, and now we have 2 giant separate churches. So this is not something that they just kind of came up with. Schisms, especially political and philosophical schisms, can lead to giant civil wars. And so you start kind of getting the sense that the Reef Cryptarchs are kind of that upright, very secretive, like what you were saying. They're very secretive about what they're doing. They're very, very focused on encrypting encrypting the engrams, and they're, you know, figuring out the history of humanity and the history of the Earthlings and the Golden Age. And they don't necessarily need to share that information because it's not necessarily information that anyone deserves. You might not understand it. What comes to mind is the conversation that we have in the Fabian strategy card, where Raoul is trying to explain to Banshee, you know, Plutarch's talk about the Fabian strategy, and Banshee's response is, okay, and he walks away. Whereas Raoul, and, you know, we kind of get the sense of the Tower Cryptarchs, you know, Raoul has a quote that says, "Too noisy, you can't hide in the quiet of the archives all your life." So Raoul is much more philosophically on the camp of going out into the world and actually working with the world and the people in that world to figure out what's going on. And that's kind of seems where the philosophical difference between the Reef and the Tower sit, is the Reef wants to be in the vacuum of their libraries and their labs. And Ives says some of this stuff. He says that, you know, he would prefer to stay in the lab. He doesn't want to be helping us degenerate schismatics, you know, and all these things. Whereas Raoul is like in the thick of it. He's sitting right out in the open in the tower. He's inviting people. You know, we heard that as he grows closer to us and he learns more and more about our personality, he offers us more and more rare engrams, you know, which for us in game is, you know, we kind of don't really pay attention to that because we're dealing with legendary and exotic engrams. But you have to understand that within the city, that's a huge thing, because engrams are pure. They're the purest form of matter. These are things that they're entrusting the pinnacle of information containment to us. So, which actually brings us. No, go for it.
I was just going to. The engram's almost like the God particle here. I mean,
yes.
It's literally, you know, just the building block. You can make an engram into anything.
Yes. Which isn't.
I've got a pretty cool tangent about neuroscience, but I think I can save that for the end.
Yeah, and I have that noted because I remember our conversation about the neuroscience of engrams. And it's important. It is. It's the more and more I read up on that, the more connections actually do exist within there. There's also a really interesting connection to Glimmer. But before we get into that, Willy, do you want to grab the Reef frames? Because this is an interesting, you know, talking about the secrecy requirement of the Reef Cryptarchy. I think the Grimoire card for the Reef frames kind of speaks to that a bit.
Yep, and we do know one of the Reef frames pretty well, Rusty. We hear Ives talk to him a couple times, but they definitely treat the frames a lot different out there than we do at the tower. You know, at the tower you have like Shax has Archite, who is kind of like a frame Shax, and they stay right here in the card that, you know, many of the Reef's oldest frames were salvaged from cargo ships that washed up on the Reef hundreds of years ago. In the city, they're equipped with basic learning capacity. Once again, they mimic behavior, personality quirks. But in the Reef, the only thing they're seen as is computers with robotic appendages. Nothing more, nothing less. So they do a backup and encrypt all data stored on the frames, and they wipe the frame's processors on a regular basis. And them wiping it on a regular basis, Blue, is kind of like what you're talking about of they want to keep those secrets themselves.
Right.
You know, they make sure to be careful to back up and encrypt all the data that's stored, and they also make sure to wipe the processors.
Right. They run a magnet over it very quickly. I just imagine them
but not
having
before they put it on a USB.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, you know, because again, the Cryptarchs are all about information. That's what they deal in. That's what, you know, they're building this information warehouse basically, which, you know, if anyone runs database comparisons, that's where that's all stored. They're building these giant warehouses of information, these libraries of information. And, you know, so it is very important to collect it, but again, pointing to the kind of the philosophical difference between the reef and the tower. You know, the tower, as much as we kind of point fingers and talk about how the higher ups in the tower keep secrets, they're nothing compared to the reef. I mean, think about the queen. Think about the higher ups in the reef, the queen, her brother, Petra, all these very major players, they don't share anything. Whereas the speaker, the vanguard, and all those, they're very willing to talk to us as a new coming guardian. So
with that, I think another thing that we were getting ready that we wanted to touch on before we moved on to items and quest lines was Glimmer.
Right. And this is really interesting to me. So Glimmer, and the reason that it's interesting to me is right before we jumped on, I was reading a guy's theory about the connection between Glimmer and engrams, and it was a really, really interesting theory. And I'm going to try to summarize it after I read the card, but it was a really well put together theory. So real quick, the Glimmer Grimoire card. It says, the programmable matter called Glimmer serves as one of the city's basic currencies. With the right inputs and an energy source, Glimmer can be transmuted into nearly anything. This makes it precious to the city's industries and artisans. That value, in turn, makes Glimmer a useful means of exchange, especially with those who venture beyond the city's walls. Glimmer passes through an economic life cycle. New Glimmer comes from reclaimed Golden Age caches and technology, whether a tiny mechanism or an underground lode seeded by ancient machines. This expansion of the Glimmer supply drives down the value of Glimmer. But Glimmer is also constantly used by the city's industry, which converts it into necessary components and materials. This sink helps keep Glimmer scarce and therefore valuable. Between this inflow and outflow lies the pool of liquidity. Glimmer used as a trade currency. Master Raoul in the tower, for example, sells recovered matter engrams in exchange for Glimmer, since he knows he can use Glimmer to acquire new engrams and keep them flowing to the Guardians. Newborn Guardians often complain that they should be issued high-quality gear for free. Are they not, after all, fighting for the future of the city? Unfortunately, this gear requires resources to manufacture. Guardians must bring in enough Glimmer and other staples, like spin metal and relic iron, to keep the engine of the city's economy turning. If good times lead to a resource boom, that surplus may help mass produce advanced gear. So that all is basically, we've kind of talked about Glimmer as this kind of, I'm going to go on a Pokemon thing and say the Ditto of everything. But the connection here is the fact that it is a form of matter, just similar to an engram. And if you look really closely at it, the image of Glimmer is what looks like a miniature gelatinous cube. Really, it's an ice blue gelatinous cube. Whereas the engrams are there's 5 types of engrams. We have, let me make sure I'm getting these correct. We have the encoded, the encrypted, the decoherent, the legendary, and the exotic. And those are the ones that we know of. And if you look really closely, there's a very similar appearance to the material within those. Because we actually have an answer of what an engram is from Raoul. And he says, what is an engram, you ask? It's data freed from matter. So everyone, and the guy that I was talking about before, he actually made the point that he made a theory that one of the reasons when you just shed an engram, if you just like decrypt an engram, or not decrypt, but if you just like dismantle it, you get Glimmer from that. And it's like his point was, well, what if engrams are actually information housed in Glimmer? Like that is what they are. And so when you get rid of them, all that's left is the Glimmer. So you discard the information, you discard that data, and all you have left is the Glimmer that then you can use to spend on.
It makes sense, actually. That actually would shed light on why we do get glimmer when we break down these things. Well, still have yet to figure out why we get legendary marks for breaking down the legendaries, other than the game mechanic, of course.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
you're talking about legendary items, not legendary. Do you get legendary marks for dismantling a legendary engram?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I was about to say that's for the item. That's like tower credit for the item.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think you're on the point there too, Willy. About there's a point at which it's just game mechanics. So in the general, well, I
so
guess
just
go for it.
I'm sorry, Blue. Can you clarify for me just so I'm on the same page? So you're saying if we're going with that theory, which is a pretty good one. So the engram is like the string of connections or the code, and then the glimmer would be the smallest part of that, like the individual.
Yep, that's it. And so the individual that I'm speaking of, it was a post on Destiny the Game subreddit, and it was about a year ago. So this is a pretty old post, and it was written by the individual is, I think it's Polymodern. And I will link this in the show notes as well. But it's just an interesting theory because he basically, and Justin, I'm gonna turn the table over to you after I get done with this, because he points to the neural network. And so there's a Wikipedia article that he had found about this, and it does a decent job. It says that they are also sometimes thought of as a neural network or a fragment of memory, sometimes using a hologram analogy to describe its action in light of results, showing that memory appears not to be localized in the brain. The existence of engrams is posited by some scientific theories to explain the persistence of memory and how memories are stored in the brain. The existence of neurologically defined engrams is not significantly disputed, though their exact mechanism and location has been a focus of persistent research for many decades, and that's the end of the quote. And Polly goes on to say, so basically from then, his understanding is the way engrams work is that they are kind of a much more advanced cogno-neurophysio blueprint of a weapon or equipment made from glimmer, which is the programmable matter. So, and he actually carries this theory into explaining why when we kill an enemy in game, they drop engrams sometimes. They say whenever you are killing a creature, that being has the possibility that it has been imprinted by such a weapon in some way. So the engram is the imprint of a sort. When you harvest the imprint, the memory imprint blueprint is only vaguely recognizable, hence the need for us to get that decrypted. So, and then they go on to say that the Cryptarch currently has a monopoly on the skills to interpret, dissect, and assimilate this imprinting. Why? We don't know. But what we do know is there is a process in the past by which the traveler imparted knowledge and understanding to the people who expanded civilization outward from Earth, which points again to the reef being the house of the Cryptarchy. And maybe it is possible that engrams are the very process by which the traveler gives its technological insights to humanity awoken or exos. And so, and then they conclude by saying maybe there are other things it is waiting to reveal, but we may first have to prove ourselves responsible enough to wield the skill of decryption before we have access to further engrams, which actually does kind of point to the game mechanics of us, leveling up to get to those legendary and exotic engrams. Is because if you think about it as us becoming more knowledgeable about how to decrypt or how to house those engrams, it does make sense that we would achieve a more profitable decryption process as our understanding grows in how to decrypt those. So, but Justin, I know you wanted to talk about the neurological idea.
Yeah. You hit on a whole bunch of it there. A long time ago, months ago, I stumbled across a neuroscience journal article just from searching the word engram. And just like Blue said, an engram, and it's worth noting that a lot of this science is unproved because it's very hard to prove how the mind accesses memories. And as technology, improves, we we're going to know more and more about this stuff, but right now there's a lot of these concepts that they can't say are 100% true, but they can say that they're not largely disputed. So scientists are starting to understand better how memories work, and they're based memories, or the way they're stored, are in things called engrams, which are like neurological chains in your brain. And the way your brain works is actually kind of funny, because one memory will have several different engrams. You will have an engram, like say you have a memory about the time you went out for dinner for your anniversary. So let's say you ate something that had a specific taste that was distinct to you. Your brain will store an engram of that taste in the center of your brain that deals with taste, your sense of taste. Then there was the image or the sight of that food. It'll store another engram so you'll have multiple engrams for each memory. And that's why there are multiple ways to trigger any given memory. Is a smell can do it, a sound, a visual can do it, so it's kind of cool. But when we talk about engrams in Destiny, I think it was Master Ives that said, well, no, we just said that engrams are, what was it? Data freed from...
Yeah, data freed from matter. That was from Raul.
Yes, yeah, that was Rahul. So an engram is literally one of these incarnate. Like we've got these, and basically the way your brain works is purely electrical connection. These are, bioelectrical signals that are being transmitted by your brain. And the biggest question that comes to my mind when I deal with engrams every single time, and I think the answer is probably pretty simple, but who's programming these things? Mm-hmm. Is this the Traveler? Is it some sort of God computer?
It's the Illuminati.
Confirmed. But just before we move on from all the neuroscience, and it's worth noting that there are people who know way more than me about this stuff. I'm just literally like hobby reading here. But I just found a really cool article about scientists trying to regain lost memories. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, they assumed that if you had memory loss, it was due to degradation of the memory. So whatever info was there was lost due to whatever degenerative disease you had, or aging, Parkinson's, whatever, what have you. But now they're saying it's not actually degradation of the engram, it's retrieval impairment. So, and there's a really cool study going on, and I'll try to get like a link in chat to this article. But, and this is kind of crazy, just it's a coincidence, but the way that they're retrieving these memories is with light. Which is pretty, yeah, you like that, don't you? No, but it's actually, they say they actually shining light on synapses in the brain to actually simulate the process by which these memories are recalled. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll post a link to it, but it's kind of my little rant.
Actually had something pretty cool that I found out recently too. I guess it can kind of be compared to cryptology, because Ceres, wasn't that somewhere around where Hygeia was before it got blown up? If I'm not mistaken,
it's out there it's out there in the reef.
Yeah, and it is a real planet out there.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a fun fact right now. Well, now it's a dwarf planet in real life. And recently, scientists have been baffled because these giant craters are just disappearing off of this thing. And they have no idea who or what is fixing these craters. And there have also been little lights seen on there too. You can search it on Google. That's what I did. Was like, actually, I used Bing because I use Bing for Bing rewards. Don't judge me. And
judge.
That was one of the things. Was scientists baffled about Ceres craters disappearing. And I'm like, hey, I know Ceres. That's from Destiny. Let me click on that and find out more.
Yeah, the photo with the lights on it is pretty crazy.
So, I mean, oh yeah, the lights that been in. I didn't see the pyramid that people kept talking about.
Oh, I remember
they saw a pyramid on there as well.
Yeah, I remember that picture.
See the pyramid, but I did see the light pictures where they have like all these. I mean, they look tiny because it's from outer freaking space, but they would have to be fairly large lights coming from the planet for them to be that visible. That's what Justin was talking about. So there's some pretty crazy stuff going on in real life series right now. And on another note, I wanted to point out that Cryptarchy has come a long way from when our Guardian has risen to now. Because back in Vanilla Destiny, my vanilla players can remember, you could go to Rahul with a legendary engram. And he would throw you a green, a blue. It would be so frustrating that you would come out with a rare and uncommon.
Well, it's through the struggles of the vanilla players that we were able to teach Raul how to more efficiently decrypt things. So,
or maybe he just likes us better now.
Yeah, I mean, how many legendaries did he rip us off before he finally started doing the? Nowadays, you can even give him a blue and he'll turn it into a legendary for you. Like, boom, mic drop. You take that now. That's what I do now. It's like you didn't used to do that. He's just kind of giving back now. But whether it be game mechanic to make players happy, it also kind of fits in the story with Cryptarchy coming a little ways.
And Forrest, did you have something?
Oh, well, I was just thinking about we were talking about a while ago the Rahul and Ives and how they both are from the Reef, but they have such different
approaches,
sort of outlooks. Yeah. And it kind of made me wonder. Rahul is much more talkative, in like wanting to share information and stuff, and I kind of wonder if he's lonely.
I would almost I would agree with that. I really would, because he also makes it. I mean, I kind of glossed over that comment that he made, but he makes a point that you can't hide in the quiet of the archives all your life, because he goes too noisy. And then he says you can't hide in the quiet of the archives all your life. And I think that's actually kind of, it almost seems like it's I think it's almost directed at Ives, because Ives has a quote hang on, let me try to find it, where I don't have it written down. I'll have to look for it, but it basically is, I didn't want to leave my labs, but the high Cryptarchs forced me to. And like, he's like, I can't wait to go back to my.
Where he says something. Yeah, it's something along the lines of, can I leave yet? He's asking if he can leave yet, so he can go back to the labs.
And Ives' complaints actually point out a bit of the hierarchy within the Cryptarch. We kind of learned from him that they do have a hierarchy. There's the high Cryptarchs, and then there kind of seems to be like high Cryptarchs, and then the master, which is basically him and Raul, even though he doesn't believe it. It almost seems like Raul is no longer in this
There was
school.
A third master maybe as well.
I don't think
What was that?
I think there's a level above master, though.
Yes. Well, I mean, so yes, there's the high Cryptarchs. The high Cryptarchs are above the masters, and then there's actually.
So where do you put a Primarch?
No, that's what I mean. I think the Primarchs are the high. I kind of get that feel. I kind of get the feeling that they might be the same, but they might not, because Primarch is actually a it's a capital P Primarch, whereas high was not capitalized. It was just like a high Cryptarch. And so I kind of got the sense that the Primarch was a high Cryptarch, because the Master Cryptarchs, he says that he's Master Ives of the Cryptarchy, Master of the Palace Division. So we also know that they have divisions. We know of 2 of the divisions. There's the Palace Division and then the Hygeia Division, which sadly no longer exists, because Hygeia also was the largest library of the Cryptarchies. But what was it? It was like below the Master, we kind of have this weird sense that there is a position that's called Lector, which kind of makes sense. But my thing is I don't know if Lector is actually within the Cryptarchy necessarily, but we do know that below Master and Lector there are positions called Novices, which makes perfect sense. And the reason we know this is that there is a quote from Ives in which he sends for a Lector Shylus from the Scriptorian to basically do something. Like it doesn't really say what he's having him do, but he's like, send for.
I think a lector. Oh, yeah. I think a lector is a linguist.
Right. But this is also the quote that we get him talking to Rusty. It says, "Rusty, get to the archive hall. Fetch Lector Shylus for me."
And he's very rude with Rusty.
Rusty is very much in the game, confirmed.
There was actually trying to find this.
I actually have a.
I'm looking for the other Cryptarch that Tolan mentions. I can't remember her name right now, but there's the third Cryptarch, and I can't remember if she's a master or not.
Oh,
do you remember what card that was?
I will look.
Wasn't it like?
Yes, I do. I know, but really quick, there is another droid that he talks to. This one's name is Creaky. So there's Rusty and Creaky.
Well, are we not sure that Creaky is just?
I get the feeling that Creaky is down. No, I think Creaky is a different. I don't know. It could be with him, but I like to think of there being 2 sweeper bots.
He's got Rusty frames. And Creaky.
Yeah, Creaky and Rusty.
It'd be real nice if they'd have him say, like, Creaky, go help Rusty.
Right, I know. Bungie, please clarify this for us.
Yes, please. Forget about the 9 and the Ahamkara. I want to know if... I want Creaky confirmed.
It was Adana. Adana is who you're talking, or is who you're thinking of.
And does he call her Master Adana? Or
I am looking right now.
I believe that was Rahul's predecessor. And I don't know where I got that.
Yeah, it might be.
But we talked about Rahul being
power that. No, go ahead, Justin.
Oh no, yeah, you're completely correct. I think Rahul speaks about her, says she was unmatched or something like that. Yeah, in her.
And he does. Tolan does not.
Oh, was that Tolan?
No, Tolan does not. No, go for
it. I have it here. Yeah, it's on Ghost Fragment High 4.
Yeah.
If only Cryptarch Adana were still with us, no one has yet to match her adept.
Okay, cool. Nice.
So he doesn't call her Master. Yeah, that was Tolan. He doesn't call her Master. He calls her Cryptarch Adana. But
yeah, so we were talking about Rahul being lonely and bored, and Rahul never makes mention of any other members of the Tower Cryptarchy. Like, I never see a single quote of Rahul saying, send me novices, or send this to the High Tower Cryptarchy. Like, it seems like he's a lot more on his own.
Mm-hmm. Which, and if you think about it, seems like
Ives has a whole collective of other Cryptarchs.
Maybe that's why he spent all of Vanilla Destiny decrypting legendaries into repairs.
Yeah, he's overworked.
Well, he was overworked.
He didn't have any backup.
Get the man, give him a break. At least he's not snippy about it.
We all know that from a video from our favorite sultry tiger Bife that eventually Rusty does get freed from the reef, from that evil Ives, and he does end up back at the tower so he can do the sweeping, which, I mean, that could have been what helped, honestly. Could have been, okay, Rahul's like, I don't have to stay in here and sweep this forever. I can actually encrypt some good engrams now. So, who knows?
Yeah,
and
Rahul
plus,
doesn't even have a frame to sweep in front of his shop.
No, he just has a very suspicious puddle of liquid. But we also know that Rahul proves to us that coffee still exists. So I like him.
God.
Wait, Blue, back up. I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, no, there's a quote. Oh, gosh. There's a quote where he's like, oh, we're not going to have enough time. Curse it. I'm going to drink coffee or something. Hang on. Let me see if I can.
Was it Rahul?
Yeah, it's Rahul. It's hilarious. I was like, yes, we're all good. We're good. I don't care what happens. As long as we have coffee, we can take on anything.
Coffee has survived the collapse.
Yep. I love it.
But did you see the Rahul quote where he says photographs from an ancient handheld communications device of the day of the traveler arrived? What a find. So there are traveler selfies, because there were people with the selfie stick just trying to get the big white ball in the background.
It's
that's on there. That's on.
The quote is, "Can't stop now, more coffee."
Nice.
That sums up many people that I know.
Pins and chats. Coffee helps me person. Dude, you and I both. I was like, I read that and I basically just was like, I'm done researching. We have this. We have this handled. It doesn't matter what you do. We have coffee.
So after the show, I'm making a meme. Gonna make that into a meme.
But to go back real quick, we kind of talked about the areas of the Cryptarchy in the reef, and I think this is telling too, because what you guys were saying about the difference in the tower and the reef is the tower doesn't seem to have like a lot of support for Rahul, and I think if you remember though, keep in mind the tower seems to be kind of a newer schismatic branch from the reef. It seems like the schism that divided these two people or not two people, but these two schools of thought, it happened fairly recently. And the thing, let me see if I can find where my notes went on this. So here we go. So the tower, you're correct. We don't have any knowledge on areas or the hierarchy of anything like that. We know that we have a master, and then we had probably his predecessor who wasn't a master as far as we know. But with the reef, we have an idea. We have the Hygeia division, which housed library, archives, labs, and sadly this library was destroyed, which I have a historical parallel that we'll talk about in a minute. But then we also have the Palace Division. Ives is a master of the Palace Division, so he kind of is it's almost like he's like the Baron in charge of this area. And then we have the Scriptorian. And the Scriptorian kind of seems like it's a separate place. And so does the Palace Division, because Ives makes a comment about the reef being a rundown waste of his time. So, but real quick, can I touch on the library?
Go for it, because I had another library. Because I don't think you're talking about the Library of Alexandria, but
yes, I am.
That's the one I think of.
Yep, that's my yep.
Well, you probably have a lot more information in front of you about it, so go for it.
So we know. Okay, so we take some flavor text from a couple different pieces. We have a weapon, a primary weapon, and it's called the Hygeia Nobilis. And it says the Reef Cryptarchy's Hygeia division is its largest, with over half the asteroid devoted to their sprawling libraries. So this is a planetoid or a asteroid or however you want. I can't remember off the top of my head what Hygeia is, but half of this celestial body is a library. It is an enormous warehouse of knowledge.
Can I just go there and
yes.
I'll just play that?
I know, right? I'm like, can I?
Hive.
I would be pissed if someone burned that down too. And we know from the Maraid, which is a hunter artifact. So this is the Maraid. Is remember when the Reef Wars. This is the Chronicle of Queen Marasov of the Awoken, compiled by the Primarchs of the Reef Cryptarchy. So Justin, that's the nod to the Primarchs there. But then we have a bounty, and it's called Gone to Ground. And there's a quote from the Maraid here that says, after the Battle of Iris, the United Wolves struck at Hygeia and sacked its libraries. The Reef Wars had begun. So we don't know entirely how much was lost. Assume that there was a lot lost here, but they're in, Willy just kind of said this. There's kind of a nod to the burning of the Royal Library at Alexandria in Egypt. Now, there's a very important note here. Historically, it is incorrect to say that there was a single burning of the Royal Library, and I'm doing air quotes around burning, because there wasn't. There were instead several of them over many different years. Now, arguably the great fire that everyone kind of thinks of when they talk about the Library of Alexandria was actually when Julius Caesar was besieged at Alexandria in 48 BC during Caesar's civil war, which was a huge political mess. Caesar actually set fire to his own ships in the harbor to help defend and to also prevent people from using them against him, which then, in ancient cities, they built buildings often to and over the water of harbors, which was great until there was a fire, and then cities caught on fire really bad. And they didn't have the really cool things called firefighters. They didn't have those. And so it spread through the city, and according to Plutarch, this was actually one of the biggest fires in Alexandria and actually destroyed a good number of the library. Now, there is a lot of dispute on whether or not the library was destroyed with this fire or not, but I'm not going to go into that. But I think that is the image. When they talk about the sacking of Hygeia's library, that's the image that comes immediately to my mind. This is a parallel to the Library of Alexandria getting burned. So
that I've actually got a question.
No.
Yes, no, it's about the Maraid. That's how you pronounce that. So the Reef.
How many did you remember?
I forgot about this.
It's the Maraid. It sounds infinitely cooler. You sound continental when you say it. Just feel free. Just take that and chew on it like some bubble gum. But okay, does anyone else find it interesting that the Reef Cryptarchy is the most advanced cryptarchy, and they have primarchs and high cryptographers, and they're dealing in matter in its purest form, and yet the Chronicle of Queen Marasov of the Awoken is compiled in a cruddy-looking book, a leather-bound book. Why is this not in engram form?
Have you ever sat down and to read a book and have an actual book in front of you? And then I
don't own a Kindle, so
you see where I was going with this. I was like, and then compare that to reading it on a Kindle. I'm like, come on, dude. A real book.
I'm a paperback man, but it seems to just break. It seems to break with everything we know about the Cryptarchy. And then that kind of brings me to another point.
Well,
how can you burn the library if it's engrams? Because engrams, if you shot a rocket at an engram, does it move?
Okay. First of all,
here we go.
I'm in trouble.
Maybe Marasov likes to keep her diary old school. You don't know. Don't judge her. She likes to handwrite things.
She has the little lock on the side.
Yeah. She keeps the key on her necklace.
And does her brother get his crows to sneak in there and steal it so he can read it?
Also, it says that
that image is not going away.
That the Hygeia library was sacked.
Mm-hmm.
To me, sacked doesn't necessarily mean destroyed.
Yep.
I mean, it could. Some things did get destroyed, but we know that the Fallen like to go and try to take information because they did that at the Ishtar Collective on Venus,
and they did it.
So
with the
they
Vault
were
of Glass.
probably right. So they were probably going there to try to get information.
Well, and if it's information,
they like loot.
Well, there's that, but it's also if it's information about the Golden Age, you can just feel the Fallens, whatever their definition of ears, like perk up. They're like, wah, wah. Like especially Skolas. Skolas was trying to return to the Golden Age for his people. He did it very poorly, but that was his entire point. Why? I'm sorry, the chat is just.
Are they talking about the illusion people? Because you sounded like you just grabbed a mushroom in Mario. Like, it was interesting.
He's like, they're talking about the journal, the diary of Marasov.
Marasov's diary. I think it was a Lisa Frank diary. You guys are talking about.
Was it what was it? The Trapper Keepers? Is that what those things were?
Yeah, nothing says I was born in the darkness. Starlight was my mother, and then a hot pink cat with sunglasses on.
Lisa Frank.
Oh my god. Oh man.
I broke it. Let's move on.
So there's I would agree with the distinction on the term sacking as opposed to
burning.
Library of Alexandria was burned. Now there's an interesting fact on the Library of Alexandria and why it burned so fast was because the librarians in Alexandria refused to do anything else. They refused to do anything that was not on papyrus. They actually destroyed the papyrus trade in the ancient world because of it, because they used so much papyrus just recording all their notes that they didn't have any excess to send. So Alexandria was actually the hub, the trading hub, an artificial trading hub that they created between the Eastern and the Western and the Mediterranean areas. And so all the trade stuff would flow into Alexandria before being distributed back out into the world, including papyrus. And papyrus was a very, very good substance to write books on at the time. This is arguably the catalyst which caused us to create parchment, because what happens is they sent all the papyrus to Alexandria, and then the Library of Alexandria, which was the royal library, which was therefore able to issue decrees that they could just take things and not necessarily give anything back, took all the papyrus, didn't send it to the other places, which required those other places to have to invent a new substance to write on, which led to the creation of parchment. And so you have a giant building filled with papyrus. So there's that other really interesting historical fact for you. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Hygeia real quick. How we were mentioning it was sacked. You actually get the pieces that you can read of the Maraid, or however the hell Justin said it to make it sound pain. I can't do that.
Maraid. It's Maraid. How is that hard?
I'm not even going to go there. The point is, you actually get the pages that you read of that book from the Fallen from the House of Wolves. So whether that just be a game mechanic to get that Grimoire card, or, well, I guess they weren't even really Grimoire cards. Yeah, they were, because you got them from defeating like the weekly bounties.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Point is, and it just kind of shows that they stole stuff, because you kind of get a little bit of it back throughout the quests. And we could get more. Who knows? Maybe they shared some of it with the Devils, who I think are supposed to be our Siva friends.
Yeah. Oh god. But there were actually two other really fun connections that we get from Ives. So remember when we started this whole conversation that we were talking about cryptology as a linguistic study, right? So we actually have a really kind of interesting nod to two individuals who are very, very big linguists and philologists. And they are kind of not very noticeable. They're not in any really text. They're just actually dialogue that Ives has. If you stand by him, he refers to a Champollion logarithm. I think that it's a French word, so forgive me. But it's so I was looking at it, and I was like, that seems like it's something that could be potentially very interesting. So I started looking into this, and it seems to me that this is actually a nod to I'm going to butcher this person's name. It's John Francis Champollion. I don't know. I'm not French. I'm not even going to pretend to be.
Jean-Francois Champollion.
There we go. See, this is why we have people who are better than us. But
good job.
Yeah. So this was a French scholar who specialized in philology and orientology, which those are really weird names. Philology is the study of language in written historical sources. It's a combination of literary criticism, literary history, and linguistics, but it's also commonly defined as the study of literary text and written records for the establishment of their authenticity and their original form and the determination of their meaning. Basically, philology is cryptology. What was Forrest? Can you?
Champollion.
Thank you. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not. He was known primarily as the decipherer of Egyptian hieroglyphics and was one of the founding figures in the field of Egyptology. There's a connection to Osiris that I'm not going to chase down, but
move on.
Yeah, I'm just going to move on. But there was a really fun development that actually happened in 2010. So he had an algorithm that basically there are two ways to decrypt unknown languages that this guy with a number of other people have kind of developed. And there is it's a length-based or a lexicon-based logarithm. So there's these two different logarithms that run, and his was kind of a lexicon-based. So there was these three individuals. I'm trying to remember: Ping Li, Mesong Sung, and Ping Zhu. And I'm going to link this research paper in the show notes because it was actually a really interesting read. But they actually created a new version of his logarithm, and they basically combined length and lexicon based logarithms into one that was roughly 5 to 10 times more efficient as far as speed and accuracy. It was more robust, and it was optimized in the speed at which it could decipher the text. And the way they did this was they split the text into smaller chunks of data to increase the speed and the accuracy of the translation. So I'm a puzzle person. I love puzzles. I love like Sudoku and stuff, like logic puzzles and stuff like this. So this was like really fun for me to read. So I will be linking that. And then the other nod was to a Michael Ventris. Now, this was a little bit less. I think it was the Ventris. It wasn't a logarithm. I can't remember what exactly the quote was, but it was basically another one that was like compared to the Ventris simulation or something like that. But Michael Ventris was an English linguist and architect, which is a very interesting combination of skills there, who, along with two individuals, John Chadwick and Alice Kober, deciphered Linear B. This was the Linear B was a unknown ancient script that was discovered at Knossos by Arthur Evans. And he basically, Ventris, Chadwick, and Kober basically used deciphering of language to disprove a very long-held belief that the Minoan society was related to the Croatoan. No. I'm trying to remember which society, but it was the history of Greek civilization was changed. Like our understanding of the history of the Greek civilization was changed because of this guy's work. And the fun part here is that both of these people, again, remember, cryptology is actually linguistic problem solving. These are both renowned linguists and, philologists. So I think that's pretty much my historical squee moments of finding out research for this.
No, that's actually really, I'm still baffled at how those people, the linguists and the cryptarchaeologists and all those, how they decipher all these things, because I know finding the Rosetta Stone was a big deal, but I don't get it. Like, you don't know what it says, so how do you know what it says?
So for Ventris, the way they did it was, I'm going to go off the top of my head, so I might be incorrect here. The Kober recognized that, so they had hieroglyphs that they had built into that they had these etched into these walls and these tablets and stuff. And it was Linear B. Linear B was this just it was a enormous frustration for, I think, decades and decades of researchers. They just could not figure this out. And Kober noticed that there was a regular structure to the ending of, it wasn't every other word, but it was something about the way that the sentence structure was established was very similar to other sentence structures within the same carvings. And then she recognized that, and then Chadwick or Ventris, one of them, kind of took that and expanded on it. And then Ventris was the one that was like, oh, well, what if we applied Greek to this? Which was not even, people had thought to do that, but they didn't have basically the pieces that they had when they started applying the Greek to the language that they were trying to decipher, they didn't have before then. So it made it very clear, but they were at a different point of research than the people before them. And so what you do is you basically, for decrypting languages, you apply what you're aware of, and modern languages, and then you kind of you reverse engineer basically, and that's how you get to it. It is beyond complicated, and I'm right there with you. I kind of understand the process that gets them to it, but I'm not a linguist, so I'm like, I have no idea. If it was a Sudoku problem, I could probably figure it out.
Well, I just never understand how you reconcile languages that don't have equivalent sounds, characters, meanings.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was the trick with Linear B, that was the problem, was that it didn't, but then they used Greek to backstep in, they basically found a back door and then used Greek linguistic structure to reverse engineer Linear B into a situation where they could translate it into Greek or ancient Greek, and then we know ancient Greek, and so then once they got it there, it was done. which makes it sound super simple, and it wasn't. Go look it up. I mean, I'm not joking. I probably just butchered that entire process terribly, but it's the best I can do. Because I'm not a linguist, and I don't I'm right there with you. I don't do languages really well. As you probably could tell by my deference to Forrest on a French name. I mean, that's a freaking language that's modern and that we know, and I can't do that. So
yeah, but you're from Texas, so no one's expecting you.
Yeah, I know. That's
no
very
one's
true.
expecting you to.
I say it the way I say it, and that's the way it's going to be said.
I'm just impressed you can say algorithm.
A logarithm?
Oh my god. So, did we want to talk about the types of engrams?
Yeah, let's touch on that real quick, because I mean it's going to be. I think that's a pretty quick.
So basically, in game, and this hasn't changed.
Linguistics.
Wow.
Linguistics.
Talk much, Justin. Wow. So it hasn't changed it very much from the vanilla. No. So basically, from vanilla Destiny to now, the engram system is one of the few economies in the game that has remained the same. So we basically have 5 known types of engrams in Destiny. The encoded, which is common, and it's worth noting that encoded gear decrypts automatically. It's the lowest level of encryption I can imagine. So when you pick it up, bam, you got white boots, and you immediately want to throw them away.
Bam, you got Husk of the Pit, and you accidentally throw it away.
No, not accidentally. That was on purpose.
I did that
3 times. I said, quit giving me this spiky looking gun. It's awful.
No, what sucks is like when I realized what it was, by that time the glitch had happened to where it would not drop for anything. So I just had to wait until they fixed that. And then I finally
even when I got Necrochasm, I was like, I'm glad I deleted all those husks of the pit. This is bad. This is not good. No, so after encoded, we have encrypted. This is our uncommon gear, which is green. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in vanilla, did you decrypt? I think you decrypted greens, didn't you? No. Okay, so greens have always self-decrypted.
Except when you're like really, really, really low level.
No. I thought you had to take them in.
Yeah, you have.
Okay, that's what I was saying, Blue. That's what I was saying.
When you're low level, you have to take them to.
And then there comes a threshold in light level where you're so powerful.
I'm just used to saying no to you. So.
Oh, okay, cool. So, and then we'll call this the blue engram because it's decoherent. Makes no damn sense.
I see what you did there. I applaud your efforts.
No, so the blue engram is probably like literally. I would love to see the numbers on this, but I doubt there's an analytic to back this up. I bet you any amount of money, 80% of all engrams you've received have been blue.
Yeah,
I would probably think.
I'd say it's 60, 67, 68.
Yeah,
not me. I would go with like 80 or 90.
I'm on 90, seriously.
Oh yeah, I get blues.
So actually it's worth noting that decoherent is actually a physics term. It's indicating an item that exhibits decoherence, and decoherence is a loss of coherence. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. Or ordering of the phase angles between the components of a system in a quantum superposition. One consequence of this dephasing is classical or probabilistically additive behavior. So if that helped anybody with anything, you're a genius. But pretty much decoherence is the breaking down of the order of things at a physics level of things. And then we have the legendary engram, the purple. And when we were playing this game very early, I remember getting excited about purples. It's hard to imagine me doing it now, but and lastly, the exotic engram, which is gold. And there's the famous quote from Master Rahul. What is engram? What is an engram, you ask? Data freed from matter.
What about sublime engrams?
I've never... Oh, I did get one of those. That was when the Vex dropped for me. Everything else has been... And that one an engram, but... That would be the only thing that would drop from a sublime engram.
I thought those were legendary.
What?
Sublime.
Sublime. That's... She made that up, right? That was a joke?
No.
No, they're a real thing.
So wait. What color is that?
They're purple. The sublime.
Purple ones.
Oh god.
No, wait.
The
Back
best
up.
damn color there is.
Sublime? Those are legendaries.
Yeah. So instead of
Yeah, they're
legendaries,
purple engrams that can only that drop old stuff, so you can get things
And
that
I
are
look
not
forward to that.
year two.
Oh.
If you want a legendary weapon that did not get pulled into year two, you can get them from a sublime engram.
When did that get put in?
year two.
In year two, when you could
TTK?
get things from year one. Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is, was that a TTK change? Because I don't remember ever seeing that. I know of a legacy engram.
TTK started year two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I'm aware of that, Willy, but I'm just wondering. I'm asking. I want answers. I
don't know where you're
much
going
like
with
Rahul,
this.
seek answers. Wait,
You're
so
making me
they're
feel like
literally.
Ben's over here right now.
Oh
Looking
my
for a
god!
desk ahead.
Where do I go to get a sublime engram? This is a whole new world.
You go to
I'm
Raul.
like the Little Mermaid.
Here's a subreddit article called "The Difference Between Sublime Engrams and Legendary Engrams," and nobody seems to know.
No, I thought they.
Hold on, I'm scrolling through all the comments.
Did these drop randomly? Like,
Okay.
Do you buy them from a vendor? Like, where? Tell me.
Players on PlayStation platforms will encounter a new type of engram, the Sublime
that's why.
engram.
That's why.
We don't care. Yeah, that's why that's why I'm confused. That's okay. I'm good. I'm good now. Okay.
As soon as she said that, I was like, "Oh, that's why he doesn't care."
Yeah, and Shizzler, if you had a PS4, you'd get them. I don't need that. I'm looking forward, baby. I don't need them old ones. Okay. You want to know how many legacy engrams I've bought? You want to know? 6, because I thought that they were exotic.
The answer would be 0.
I know. That's my answer. Is 0. I was like, okay, well.
No, I went blah 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 blah. Let's see what we got. 170, 170, 170. Okay, I'm not buying any more of these. These are bad. Yeah. So I did not know that. That is wow. Why would that be PlayStation only? That is baffling. That's literally baffling. I have no idea. That's like, do you guys have another type of glimmer too?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Justin, stop. We know that
Okay,
happened for Banjo. Oh man, my face hurts right now.
Okay, so I think we covered that. Do we want to cover?
There was something that we did talk about in chat. The communication between Ives and Raul. I remember this because I disagree with this. Actually. I remember this because I disagree with it. There was a conversation about how there is a potential for them to have a shared consciousness because there seems to be a sense of a chat going on simultaneously between the two of them. If you look at the dialogue, I argue that it's just them writing teasing taunts to each other.
Well, they're privy to data freed from matter. So if you're freed from matter, you're freed from the constraints of
right. Well, but I mean, they still write, like he still writes messages to Raul, and there is a competition going on between them, which is hilarious because the smack talk that Ives has towards Raul is pretty funny. One of my favorite ones is, "Ha! Look at this, Raul. Your brains have turned to mush since you've left the reef."
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Ives, again, I don't like Ives.
There was a conversation as well near the end of the chat about the potential connection between the Cryptarchs and the Tetunes, which I really would be interested in chasing that down a bit more, just simply because I want to know what the hell the Tetunes are, other than tech witches, because we already know that. But and that's simply because they both deal with very tech-heavy aspects of information exchange and research, and they're both housed in the reef. But there wasn't a lot of, I don't remember a lot of conversation on that other than the nod to a potential connection for those two types of individuals. They don't seem to be in communication with each other very much, other than, just the surface. Yeah, we're doing research here and these are our notes. But I think that's everything.
I want to point out real quick. We can confirm that he does write letters. Well, it doesn't look like he does himself.
Right, he
has a quote where he says,
"Yeah,
compose a letter, dear Master Rahul." No. Honored Master Rahul. Like, when you look at all of Ives' snarky little things, like he actually tells us at one point, he's like, just go kill something.
Yeah.
So
he actually makes mention that it must be terribly hard to think on Earth. The gravity makes our mind slow. And I don't like him, man. I don't like him. I think he needs to be taken down a peg or two. Bothers me. I remember the first time I decoded an engram at Ives, and he said, "You Guardians take our finest things." I'm like, quit giving them to me then. Just shut up. I've got an icon over you, and I want to get rid of it. Get on my face. Oh, yeah, I don't like Ives. Rahul, is much more grassroots. I can really get behind what he's doing, but Ives is just snooty, snooty mini Zavala. I don't like him.
At your service, I suppose.
Look at him. Look at his picture.
Oh man. All right, well, let's go into shout outs, and Forrest, as guest, you get to lead the charge.
All right. Well, I will shout out to Baxter, founder of the Ishtar Collective. We are doing lots of fun things over there, so check us out, ishtar-collective.net, and I'll shout out to my clan, Turbo Electric Platypi, because they're awesome.
Yes, they are, and I don't even know them. I just know they're
awesome at naming stuff.
That name, yeah, for sure.
That's next level. That's like, even if you get killed and it's really awful in the Crucible, you will giggle. Yes.
So, I just want to give a big shout out to our Discord chat. You guys have been amazing, and it has been growing a really quick pace. Hope to keep that pace going. But even bigger shout out actually is to Unisys. He has kind of taken it on himself to basically be the bot wrangler of the Discord chat. So anytime those bots are working very well or aren't cooperating, Unisys is the one that is like getting in the, opening them up, fixing the code scripts and all that. And he's got a couple things that he's working on for us that are going to make it even better. I'm really grateful for everything that Unisys has done, and just in general, the Discord chat. It's been been a blast having that chat up and running like it has. And Discord VoIP is amazing. It actually works. Thankfully, we can hear everybody, including someone typing. Justin.
And no one got cut off either. Like it all worked really smoothly.
By the way. Not typing. Okay, so is it my turn?
Yes, the speaking stick has been passed to you.
Oh, Piggy has the conch. I know I didn't write this one down, but again, big shout out to Unisys. He likes big bots and he cannot lie. Big shout out to Pins Halo for fixing my computer. Thank you. For freeing me from the oppressive grip of Cortana. Big shout out to Master Rahul. I know he's got a bad rap, and a lot of people who played at a very early juncture don't like him, but I like Smurf Robin Williams. That's my boy. So you do you, Rahul. You do you. Big shout out to Ishtar Collective, Forrest, Baxter, and the whole team there. And I just wanted to make a comment that y'all started doing something, and I don't know when you started doing it, but I absolutely love it. It was like one day I was like, "What? This is here?" It was the transcripts of in-game dialogue.
Yeah, we have not finished it on those yet, but we're working on them.
Oh my God, those are awesome. Because that's one of the hardest things to do when you're researching this stuff is like, okay, so there's this, and then there's that, and there's this. But I know they said something about it when you did the Sunbreaker subclass quest, but I can't remember what he said. And you've got that right there, so just keep up the good work. Great job. And big shout out to Green Eyed, a music lover from last week, for being an awesome guest, and also to Forrest, or Purple Chimera, this week, being a wonderful guest. And then I throw it to Willy.
Already the talking stick has been thrown to me. Well, as always, going to start off with DODX1 Foxtrot. Love my crew. I know they get a little too rowdy and carried away sometimes. So try to make sure I game with the calmer members during streams herein. Big shout out to Discord chat. I got on there and I'll be tweeting out. I'm looking for options for the Friday shenanigans. So if you're on Twitter or in the Discord chat, vote. Tell me what to play and I'll play it next week. And big shout out to Bife for this particular episode, because you can actually head over to his YouTube page, and it was a video that conveniently came out on April 1st, where a great legend of ours, whose name is too great to be said at this point in time, helps poor Rusty and frees him from the oppression that is Master Ives of the Reef. So if you haven't seen that video by Bife yet, it is amazing.
And
I shed a tear, I think, when I first heard it.
And it's 100% serious.
Yeah, it's totally super serial. Okay, super serial. Totally
Despite his crimes against humanity, you should definitely give his YouTube channel a peek.
Crimes against humanity.
Yeah, that video set the progress of of reason back like 100 years. And it also made Willy super hard to deal with.
Just a bit.
So anyway, yeah, because Justin did like a million shout outs, so I didn't have many people.
Come on.
Throw shout outs
Come on.
to.
Shout out some more, brah.
No, I think that's it.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Well, with that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend the evening with us. If you'd like to join us, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our sites can also be found with our episode archives over on www.focusfirechat.com. Thank you again to Forrest for spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it and look forward to getting you back on here sometime soon.
I had a great time, and I look forward to chatting with you guys again.
Perfect. And please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any feedback or questions concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback on iTunes or through that email as well. We try to keep to the scheduled Wednesday night streams of the chat, starting at approximately 10 p.m. Central. But if we have any variations, we always make sure to let everyone know through our Twitter account at FocusFireChat. Also, please be sure to check out our partner podcast within the Guardian Radio Network over on the guardiansofdestiny.com. So, until next time, the lore band marches on.
He's supposed to say something before he drops the mic.
I found the mute button. The push to talk wasn't working.